Live from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, it's EKB TV Live with your host, Dr. Bernard Alvarez. Empowering the human experience.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our second installment of the EKB TV Global Conference Call. This is Bernard Alvarez. I'm here on behalf of the Global Illumination Council and EKB TV Earth Knowledge Broadcasting Network, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast. Tonight I have Dr. Raina Redhawk with me. She is a Cheyenne spirit woman and, amongst other things, quite an intellectual and ex-Egyptologist with many things to offer us. This night's discussion... Oh, Raina, would you like to say hello?
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. We're glad to see you here, and I think we have some really interesting things to talk about tonight.
Me too, and I'm getting really excited about it. We've had such great response to the fact that we're doing this evening that I hope we get to give everybody exactly what they're looking for, at least in one sense or the other. Tonight's discussion is going to be on chemtrails, light workers, and the NWO, or better known as the New World Order. And let me start off with the fact that I just finished watching Alex Jones's Endgame to get motivated. Have you seen that yet, Raina?
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. It's from what I've heard from everybody, it's amazing.
It's not only amazing, it's devastating. It is devastating. But to jump into our conversation here, why don't we share a little bit about what we know about chemtrails? I noticed that a lot of people really don't know what they are. They don't know what they're seeing, if they're seeing it. I find that a lot of the people that come to me are like, "Oh, those are just clouds." So, Raina, could you explain maybe a little bit about what the difference between like chemtrails are and contrails, and how somebody could actually tell the difference when they're looking at one?
Yeah, we started noticing the chemtrails versus contrails about 15 years ago. Now, I'm in Arizona, excuse me. And first let me say a contrail, which is something that you see from a jet that's flying in very high altitude. But you will notice a contrail disappears, I would say if you're looking up, up very high at a plane, it'll look like it's about maybe 2 or 3 inches behind the plane from the earth to the sky. And as the plane goes along, it naturally dissipates and disappears. Whereas a chemtrail, and these planes are flying at tremendously high altitudes, so no one has been able to really pick up exactly what kind of planes they are, except they're different looking planes, and they have these huge tanks underneath them. The chemtrails will stay in the sky, and if you start looking up, you will see them crisscrossing the sky in grids and crazy patterns in many different kinds of shapes. And sometimes they last all day, but when they dissipate, they don't dissipate the way a contrail does. These chemtrails spread out. And what is in these chemtrails are a variety of substances, from horrible chemicals that cause lung disease. There is a new disease out there within the last 3 or 4 years. It's called Morgellons disease. It's Morgellons.
Yeah, I'd like to go into that a little more later, absolutely.
Which infects the person, and they usually come right after the chemtrails. There have been people that have picked up after the chemtrails, find dust on their cars. Sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it disappears in the atmosphere. The problem is that we are breathing this in, and more people, the hospitals, especially here in Arizona, the emergency rooms are overflowing with people with lung diseases. And nobody knows what it's from. They look at some people have actually gone and had biopsies from their lungs, and nobody can recognize what this is. So somebody, somewhere, whether it's our government or the shadow government or whoever is doing this, they are dumping poisons on us from the sky. Now, there has been some speculation that if they are doing this, who are the pilots that are flying these planes? I think there are no pilots. I think these planes are controlled by radio, because I can't imagine anybody in the service of the United States wanting to poison their own people.
Exactly.
And so I really think these are remote control planes or some other faction. I mean, who knows? The way things are going on today, who knows who or what could it be? But that's generally what the chemtrails are, and you will see them. Sometimes the sky, I don't know how people can miss them, Bernard, because the sky sometimes are just full of them.
Well, I don't think people look up anymore. You know, we talk about it, and I don't want to jump into that discussion, but they're plugged in. They're too busy watching TV and watching their iPods to even just look up into the sky. And then there's also the other part of how can they accept the fact that the government or a shadow government or somebody is intentionally poisoning the masses. You know, it's really hard. And, you know, I was thinking about that this afternoon in the sense that, you know, how do we educate these people on this besides doing what we're doing this evening and, you know, creating this podcast and this Skypecast? There's very few people that might even be open to listening and learning about these things because they're just so horrific. Who would think that our government would want to poison us? You know, but you were talking about. I mean, you totally set up the whole evening's conversation. Thank you, by the way. There's like 8 topics I want to talk on just in your opening statement. Is what's in the chemtrails, and from what little research I guess that we know for sure that's in there, I've seen that it's been barium. I've seen that it could be aluminum. I've heard it's been anthrax and, you know, all types of different spores. And for me, how it has affected me, or how I can see some type of effect from it, is the recent rash of upper respiratory infections we've been having here in South Florida. You know, everyone's calling it the flu, but everyone has a sinus or upper respiratory infection. Not everyone, but these people that think they're getting this flu. Mm-hmm. And this flu is only a respiratory infection. It's a sinus infection. And I was noticing also that a lot of times they're finding a lot of film on certain things. Have you been able to see that, like, I don't know if you've seen it before, but I know I have here in Hollywood, where it starts to just drop, and you can see the film dropping onto the earth. Have you had the opportunity to see that horrific sight? Unfortunately,
only at a distance, not directly over us, but if you look off into a far distance, you can see it coming down over the mountains. So I imagine we're getting it too.
Yeah. And this isn't just exclusive to America, is it?
No, this is all over the world. It's not just here on this continent. It's everywhere.
And if it's everywhere, I mean, is it fair to say that it would be someone like the New World Order, for lack of a better term, doing something like this?
It might be. Some of the chemicals that they're spraying on us are for chemical intoxication of the public, which would then cause a general immune suppression, low grade to high grade fevers, depending on the exposure, immune dysfunction, and you know that once our immune system goes, everything goes. Excuse me.
And you got to ask yourself why they're doing this, and I'm going to go back again, because I'm going to sound like a broken record about the NWO. Is this some type of depopulation program that they're trying to create? Or are they trying to get rid of the weaker, you know, the young, the old? I mean, who would you think this affects the most? Well, as far as health-wise.
Well, we know that we have to get rid of a lot of people on this planet if we're going to survive. And the thing is,